All right, we rolling. Welcome back. This is episode 3 of Rap and Reason Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dr. Jeremy C. McCool.
And I'm Earl Hopkins.
We back at it, bro.
We're back at it, man. Like, just when they thought they could slow us down, we back with another joint.
Now we already got ops. Who is they?
I don't know. see, I got voices in my head. You know what I mean? So sometimes, I got to go at war with myself.
With yourself. We gotta make it seem like we have some obstacles to overcome. No, but good week so far, man, and I'm looking forward to this episode. We got a lot of good feedback on the last one.
Yeah, we did.
Some people disagree with the Eminem takes, which is cool.
That's fine. That's okay.
That's okay. Yeah. Some people agreed with the Eminem takes.
They did too. But that's the type of stuff that we enjoy having, like that type of discourse.
Absolutely. And one thing is for sure that we will always acknowledge the fact that music is subjective. We're here to break down different albums, different songs, and some of you all will agree with some of the takes, some won't. But as long as you're entertained and you learn something about music and culture, then our job is fulfilled.
Absolutely. And we respect our legends, too. So even though we didn't necessarily love the project itself, that has no bearing over how we feel about an artist like an Eminem or anybody else that has reached that pinnacle. You
Absolutely. And Eminem, and I'm glad that we also made sure we highlighted the pros of the album. Like I said, he's rapping on that album. So it's Eminem's a legend. He's going down as a great, regardless of if he never drops a project ever again. So definitely put in work, which is always good to acknowledge the work that people put in.
Absolutely. And I know you get this question a lot because, we review albums, we consume hip-hop music, we have most of our lives. But when it comes to, like, artists, like, that don't get that recognition, like, for you, who are some of, like, the dark horses, some of the artists that are underappreciated in your eyes?
For me, one of the artists that I really want to acknowledge that I feel like is underrated, Big Crit. Big Crit out of Mississippi is one of the hardest artists. He's one of my favorites of our generation. And I think that he doesn't get the acknowledgement. I know now he's independent. He was signed to Def Jam, and I don't think they knew what to do with him as an artist. Dropped some phenomenal project. Cadillactica, excellent project. Even before that, Crit here, and Crit was here, like, has dropped some amazing projects, lyrical, produces his own music. So definitely a rapper, producer, and yeah, just amazing, man. And has a lot to say and a lot of substance in his music. So Big Crit is definitely an artist that I feel like is completely underrated. And I think a large portion of it is because of the fact that he's from Mississippi, man.
I think so.
And shout out Mississippi, man. That's where my people from. My grandparents from Mississippi. I'm from Chicago, which Chicago's pretty much North Mississippi. If you black and from Chicago, 9 times out of 10, you're people from Mississippi, especially if you're from the South Side. So definitely, I think that plays a big role. There haven't really been any big hip-hop acts that have risen out of Mississippi outside of David Banner.
David Banner, yeah.
Yeah, and I believe Ray Shrumman are from Mississippi.
Yeah, Ray Shrumman is from Mississippi and are one of the more hitting, superstars.
Yeah.
Soldier, big Soldier.
Soldier Boy from Mississippi?
He from Mississippi, bro. Well, he was born in Chicago, but grew up in Mississippi. Everybody always thinks he grew up in Atlanta, but he's from Mississippi.
I just learned that today.
Yeah.
And that's why I was wanting to crank that when I was a kid.
Hey.
It was the roots. It was Chicago, Mississippi. That's okay.
It was those
okay,
ties.
This is adding up.
It's
this
adding
is
up
adding
now.
up, and I'm not shocked by that. Okay. Dang, Soldier Boy from Mississippi.
Soldier. Draco.
Okay. So, yeah, so there haven't been any, like, giant artists that rise from there. So I think that and maybe his southern drawl made some people not take him serious as a lyricist. But, yeah, man, Big Crit to me is one of those ones. He also came out in that same class right after Cole, Kendrick. He was in that Wale, Big Sean. He came out in that same era. And unfortunately, he didn't get the same label support and the same backing as some of those. But definitely one of my favorite artists.
Hands down.
Who you think? Who's somebody who you think is underrated in the game that you're like, why aren't y'all paying attention to this guy?
So I think somebody that comes to mind, honestly, and this has a lot to do with the fact that unlike Mississippi, there's a lot of output when it comes to Southern Cal, especially LA-based artists. So I think like an artist that kind of gets like caught up in the mix that people don't really think about is West Side Boogie. Like West Side Boogie got classic records. he has some really good albums. Like his last project, More Black Superheroes, that was one of my favorite albums in 2022. Like he has all the elements you want, lyricism. Like he has some bounce to his records. Like he has some deep introspective songs as well. Like when it comes to Westside Boogie, I think he's one of the more underappreciated artists out of the West. And I think like he like is complimentary to anybody else that's of that tier, of a higher tier. You know what I mean? And anytime he's featured on a record, he blows smoke. He goes crazy. So I don't know why he doesn't necessarily get the pub. I think it has more to do with the fact that he doesn't produce music at as high a clip as some of his contemporaries. But Westside Boogie's underrated. Yeah.
You just put me on. I got to listen to Westside Boogie. So I've heard his name. Of course, I saw that Kendrick brought him out at the Pop Out. So I heard some of his stuff there, and he sounded good. So I know I have to go and do some research. What project would you recommend for me as somebody who's not familiar with his music catalog? What album or project would you recommend that I listen to first?
I would say More Black Superheroes. I think that's like the perfect entry point because, like, of course, like his past project, I forgot the name offhand, but it came out in 2019. Like that was the introduction. That's where he had like he was dressing all red, and was at like that picture, the album cover with him in like, you know, as a pallbearer. And everything else, like that joint is crazy. Like it has a lot of great records, and that was my introduction to him. But I think he kind of refined his sound, branched out a little bit, kind of held on to like pretty much like his strengths as an artist on More Black Superheroes, and it's just dope. Like as I'm not a father at this point, but you know when I do, like I think I'll go back to that project, and some of the themes that he tackles on it will hit me a little harder.
You got me with the title, More Black Superheroes.
For sure.
As an album title
Alone.
Crazy. Okay, I'm checking out Westside Boogie, so that's another artist that we want to shout out, man. So Big Crit, Westside Boogie, that's some of our recommendations for this week, man. Check them out. Check out their projects and their bodies of work, man. And you know we have to amplify the music messaging that we want to see.
For sure.
That's one thing. I think that the fans of the trash artists are louder.
For sure.
Like the fans of the artists who make terrible music, they're loud. Like
and they show up at the concerts. They prop these artists up.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
They promote them. And I feel like us other hip-hop fans who like more of the deep introspective music have to start being a little bit more vocal about the artists that we like. So those are 2 recommendations of some underrated artists.
For sure.
Yes.
That need more love. And on that note, too, like how I feel about hip-hop as like across the board, I feel like hip-hop is still in a good place. I feel like it is. Like, you have artists, like someone like me, I can consume what others would consider, like, more of, like, the mumble rap group, but I also got to consume, like, somebody of a higher tier when it comes to lyricism, you know, subject matter and everything else. And I feel like across the board, of course, if you look on certain sides, you as a hip-hop fan will want to see certain things more than others, but I think having that versatility, having those bevy of options is also good when it comes to just music in general. And yeah, the what we consider trash, you and I, like in private outside of the podcast, what we consider trash music, that fandom is like the reason why these artists feel fueled or energized or like have like whatever they need to like carry that trash artistry with them and go on tours and do this and you know what I mean?
Spreading the trash. Spreading
it. It's an infection. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the fandom is really behind that, but I think in overall, though, I think hip-hop is in a solid place so far.
And I would agree at a certain level. The only part where I would disagree is I think mainstream hip-hop is in a bad place.
Ooh, okay.
So I think that overall, I think that there's a plethora of good artists and there's a lot of variety in what you want to listen to. I think that you can find if whatever type of music you're looking for today, you can find it. And that artist will have a fan base. So if you're looking for more deep introspective lyrics, they're there. If you're looking for more of the boom bap 90s type music, that's there. And there are new artists who are doing that too, who have fan bases. And I think that that's there, but I think the music that's being pushed at the like highest level is trash. Like not all, but
course.
Like more than half. So I don't think that it's balanced on the mainstream commercial scale. If you're talking about in its totality, I think hip hop is in a good place. I think that there's enough good artists where the fans of a certain type of hip hop music can find it.
Right.
But I think that the music that's being amplified by record labels and by streaming platforms and by the powers that be, I think a lot of that is not balanced. I don't think there are enough conscious rappers who are being amplified at all.
For sure. It's almost like they're placed into the shadows when it comes to mainstream music, and I don't know what it is. I get it, like certain artists that we look to, and we're seeing, like, especially younger hip-hop fans, consumers, we're seeing them get amped to, like, certain sounds and certain things that it may not have longevity. Their lyrics may not be saying anything of value, but it just has a certain, whatever the BPM is, whatever the sound is that they're capturing, they're garnering the fandom and attention of those younger, consumers. And I think, like, when it comes to music that you and I like, you know what I mean, that we really take with us and really listen to on a day-to-day. I think, like, of course, those artists are kind of, like, placed in the shadows. And I think there's only a very select few that still have that mainstream success that also have quality music and sound and have a message to go along with it. And it's kind of disappointing a little bit, too. So I see you on that side.
And I'm also starting to notice that some of the artists who aren't known for making music with more substance as far as, like, talking about their lives and things they've been through and just more stuff that people can really relate to and feel, I'm starting to see some of them starting to jump into making more music like that. Like, I haven't listened to the whole JT album, which, I mean, I don't think I'm in the City Girls target.
I don't think you the demo.
You know what I mean? I don't think I'm the demo. I don't think that they made it for me. But I did hear one of the JT songs where she's talking about her life and her upbringing. Yeah. I'm hearing her go more introspective. I'm hearing even Meg Thee Stallion, I'm hearing go more introspective. For sure. We've heard Lil Baby and different artists trying to tap into talking about more than just the, cars, money, whatever, you know what I mean? And I think that that's good, but like I said, I just don't think it's balanced enough. And maybe it's because I'm comparing it to older generations of hip-hop, which, I mean, you have to kind of compare hip-hop to itself just because it's a newer genre. But I don't think it's at the level where we need to, but I think this year is better than the last couple years.
I think so. I think we are starting to hear, like, I listened to Meg's album. She had a record on there where she's talking about the recent years of, people criticizing her, the whole.
I think it's anxiety, I believe.
Or something like that. And I saw her actually perform a song that was of a similar ilk where she's talking about her past relationships. And just past undoings, you know what I mean? Like, and the pressures that's been brought on by the media, some of her, like, critics. And it's, like, that's more of the stuff I want to see from artists of that tier that are selling, hundreds of thousands of, not records, but definitely concert tickets and everything else and going on global tours. Like, I want to see more of that from them. And I think with that will inevitably, like, tilt the scales a little bit to where we see more of that equal, like, quality that we want.
And to be clear, I still want party songs. So
of course.
I'm not somebody who doesn't want the club songs. I think those are important too.
For sure.
But I don't think that those club songs aren't the songs that made me fall in love with hip hop. I love, like, there are club songs I love, but, like, you're never really going to hear anybody say, whatever latest club song, it changed their life or got them through a moment in their life or got them through a tough time. Like, that's not what that music is for. Like, you're not going to hear nobody say, Glorilla, yeah, Glow got them through a rough patch in their life. You love it. It might bring you back to a good memory in your life or a certain time, or, like, nobody's going to say, DaBaby, Shook. I remember a few years ago that got me through. Like, no. But it's important, but that's not enough for longevity.
For sure.
And DaBaby, even DaBaby on the same token, he started talking about his brother and started talking about the things he was going through in his music. And I think that secures fans more than just, I'm going to make some club songs.
For sure. And I think, again, like, the aspect that I love about hip-hop and what place we are in right now, like, there's less of a entry, like, there's less of a barrier, which is bad because that just means more trash filters through, right? But it also means, like, a lot of these regional sounds that we've now grown to, like, number one, see, but then also as hip hop fans kind of appreciate. Like, I was just playing like artists from Detroit. Like I love the Detroit sound. I also love what artists are bubbling from St. Louis.
Yep.
You know, like I just love the fact that there's different pockets of hip hop that's like kind of bubbling or finally getting just due. So I do love that aspect of it. And again, I'm with you when it comes to like just more of a balance. I think club records that like I grew up on, like the first club record that I remember, bro, as a new hip hop fan, is Jaquan's Tipsy, bro.
Tipsy
that was my
hard.
first joint. That was my joint,
Yo,
bro.
Tipsy was hard.
It was hard.
Don't you wish you were an adult when that came out?
No, yo, I'm like 6 years old, 7 years old, singing "I'm Trying to Get Tipsy," bro. Like, what am I off milk? Like, where am I going with it? You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%. That is. I'm trying to think. What's the first? You know, I think the first club song that I really, really remember, and I was real young when this came out, Nelly, Country Grammar.
Oh yeah.
I think that's probably the first one that I really remember. That and Lil Jon, To the Windows, To the Wall.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
those are like some of the early ones that I remember as a kid. And I remember I wish I was outside for those.
I wish I was outside for those records too.
Yeah, it would have been a different experience. But those take you back to a time and place. So now when I hear those songs, I'm like, oh man, I remember exactly. Like
For
I remember
sure.
watching 106 in Park, and you know, as a kid and watching the video for this song release. So yeah, Jaquan Tipsy was a good one.
It's a good one, and I don't know what happened to Jaquan after that. I feel like I've been seeing like recent stories of him, like he's been popping back up, or he's doing.
Well,
like,
there's a country singer that covered this song, so it's a hit again.
What?
I heard it in the car the other day. You know,
That's
I heard it, and I was
crazy.
like, "Is this Jaquan?" It's like the whole song. It's like, yeah,
That's wild.
yeah.
Yo.
So it's resurfacing. So I hope that he's getting some of those. I hope he owns the rights to that
For
song, so
sure.
that he's getting paid from it. But yeah, man, that was a moment.
That was a moment. I'm trying to think of a Nelly record that like was big back then, bro.
He had a bunch. Nelly had from
Hiding Her.
Hiding Her.
There we go.
That was
There we
another
go.
big
That
one.
was oh,
Hiding
insane
Here was
period,
crazy. Grills was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nelly had Air Force
Yeah.
Ones was crazy.
Yeah.
Like Nelly is speaking of underrated.
Bro. Underrated. Totally disrespected.
Nelly.
Mm-hmm.
And Nelly is still touring, and his music is still playing in clubs today, which I think he should get a little bit more credit for. Like
sure.
to have been out for 20 years,
Yeah.
and your music is still playing today, that says a lot. Because a lot of music just dies out after 2 years and you never go back to it.
That's what I'm saying. Like when it comes to like, because we live in a microwave society, we had that mindset where it's like it's hot now, few months later, like it's done. You know, it doesn't have the same. It just doesn't have the same appeal. But I think like for longevity, especially within hip hop, because it is such a youthful music genre, we have to appreciate songs that have lasted half of the the age of hip hop, like 25 years, bro. Like considering hip hop is only 50, 51 years old, like that's massive.
Yes,
bro.
if your music has survived almost half of the lifespan of hip hop,
Insane.
That's big, and
Mm-hmm.
I think we definitely need to salute. Same thing with Ja Rule. Like I get everybody
Yes.
cracking the little Ja Rule
Right.
jokes, but Ja Rule music is still playing today in clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Ja Rule music is still, you still hear people listening to Ja Rule's music. So
Absolutely.
I think that it's all the little jokey joke stuff. Same way, don't make me go on the Ja Rule rant the way I did Bow Wow last time.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, 'cause
yeah.
Ja Rule is another one, man, who's made some classic records where people will always love the joints Ja Rule has with Ashanti alone. Like,
Come on.
will never die.
Yeah.
They
Fed a
because-
generation.
Fed a generation, man, and are just classics.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, that's definitely. I think that hip hop's in a good place. We have some album reviews to get into.
Oh yeah. So let's get into
Where we starting, man? We starting on a high note, or we starting on a low note?
Well, listen. I want to hear your perspective on this project because okay, so
You always want me to crash out.
I do. So we got to start with my man's Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino. So, for those that don't know, he released his final album. It's pretty much we reviewed the death of Slim Shady last week, but now we're talking about the death of Childish Gambino.
Which I'm not 100% sure I believe it. We've seen rappers retire a lot of times. Jay-Z retired a couple times.
He did.
He stuck around. A lot of artists say that they're going to retire and they don't. But if he does retire, the Childish Gambino moniker or persona in his music, I think he had a good run. He had a few classics under that umbrella of the Childish Gambino imprint. And I also want to say, like, you got to start with love. I love the show Atlanta.
Of course.
Let's start there.
Classic.
I think that's a classic show, hilarious. I think that it was a staple for what it was. So I shout out Childish Gambino on that front. I think he does some good work. I think he has some classic songs. Redbone is going to go down as a classic song. This Is America is going to go down as a classic song.
And music video.
What was the one? 2005, 2005 or
something like
3005.
3005.
That's another song that I really love by Childish Gambino. He has some classic songs, so I want to start there. Now let's get into this album.
Okay, get to the you know what I mean.
Let's get down to the album. All right, this is probably. Let's start with the intro. I think this is probably one of the worst album intros I've ever heard in my life.
The worst ever?
Yes, probably not the worst. But like one of the worst, where it came on and like it almost made me want to turn off the album, but I knew we had to review it just because I was like, where are we going with this?
Yo.
It reminded me a little bit of Yeezus. And Yeezus is probably my least favorite Kanye album, so that's not a good starting place.
So that's not a good comparison at all.
And there's a lot of Yeezus I hear in this album.
I hear it too.
And I don't want to hear Yeezus, so I really don't want to hear anything that inspired by Yeezus.
Right.
You know what I mean? And for somebody who really loves Kanye's music, and we're gonna review a Kanye album later, Yeezus isn't an album I enjoy. There's a few songs on there that I enjoy, but as a whole. And this album, some of it embodies the songs on Yeezus I don't like.
Right.
So let's start on some songs I like.
Okay.
So let's get into the songs I like. So I don't like the intro. Let's be very clear.
That clear.
Very clear. Very clear.
Yeah.
Survive with Chloe, I liked.
Okay.
I liked it. I think that was a nice song. There's also, this album is just all over the place. I hear a lot of inspiration from other artists, but not necessarily the best. I hear a lot of Frank Ocean in this, in this project. So like songs like Steps Beach, I hear a lot of Frank Ocean inspiration in the song, but it's not as good as Frank Ocean.
Of course.
But it's like it reminds me of Frank Ocean. What other song do I want to really highlight? I want to highlight a song that really reminded me of what I know Childish Gambino for. Is it Yoshinoya? How do you
Yoshinoya, yeah.
No, Yoshinoya. Yeah, that one. I liked it. I thought he was rapping.
I love that song.
He was rapping, and it sounded, and it brought back a nostalgia of like what Childish Gambino used to do as an MC. So definitely some good lyrics there. I like that one. There's a few songs on here that I like, so I definitely want to highlight that. In the Night, I love. I think that one's gonna stick around
for sure.
I really, really think that that's a good song. So In the Night is another one, and then I think that's where the buck stops for the stuff I like. The rest of it, man, I just, it's all over the place. There's some songs that sound pop. There's some songs that sound, you know what it is? He did an adventurous approach sonically. And he incorporated a lot of different genres, but he incorporated all the genres I don't like.
Okay,
so I think that's one of the things with this album. There's some like dubstep, techno type stuff in there. Yeah. I don't like that genre of music. There's some like really like punk, almost emo-ish type of sounding songs. I don't like that either. There's Whatever Yeezus Was. I don't like that either.
Right.
So it incorporated a lot of sounds and stuff that I just typically don't gravitate to as a sober person. I think this album is. I think I could understand somebody being under the influence of something, loving this album.
Right.
But as somebody who has been sober his whole life, I did not enjoy it. And I would pass it off to Earl.
Yeah, no. So I feel the same. What I do respect about the album, and this isn't new for Childish Gambino fans, he is experimental. Like, he does kind of toil with different genres, and he's able to kind of in some ways like contribute or splash or dip toes in these different genres and like come with something a little bit more cohesive. This was not cohesive. This was all over the place for me. He was just throwing paint at canvas and seeing what image would come of it. And when I look at this project, I don't see a clear vision or image as to what he wanted to get out of this project. I understand like it's accompanied by kind of like an odd, obscure, off-kilter film as well. That's great, bro. But as music fans and as, you know, people that are reviewing the album, we also want to come, especially given like the retirement attached to it, we want to come away saying to ourselves, Childish Gambino will be missed. Like, Donald Glover is great, like, as a creative. He's a creative. You can just tell naturally. But this album, especially given the magnitude of it, and it being a stamp, you know, on his musical career as we know it now, to me, it fell really short in that way because there's just no direction. It's directionless, and I couldn't really take anything away from the album as a whole. Like, of course, Yoshinoa, couple records, I like I even like Crisis, and everything. No Excuses I can absolutely do without, because because he's dipping into these musical genres, it doesn't feel authentic. It sounds like watered down variations of each one almost.
Absolutely.
And again, with those Yeezus inspirations or Kanye-isms that he's really trying to capture on the album, it just seems like, it feels like empty calories musically.
Empty calories. That's a good analogy right there.
Does,
empty calories, and I would agree. And I think that you have to hold somebody like a Childish Gambino to a high standard just because he's one of our greats talent-wise.
Absolutely.
This is someone who's done stand-up comedy, who has done acting in films, somebody who is a great writer, somebody who sings, raps, somebody who kind of does everything. And there are some great vocals on this. He actually does some really good singing on this album. So I definitely don't want to take away from that. But like you said, there's no cohesion. Like, it's all over the place, but it's not I don't know what he could have done to change that other than make a different album. But I'm just not. There was I will never revisit this album again.
Never.
No.
I asked like I'm surprised. Yeah.
You knew this when you recommended this album.
Right.
That I wouldn't like it.
I text you? I say, literally, you probably will never revisit this or like this.
Yes, you told me that before I listened to the album, and by the first song, I knew you were right. And yet you made me listen to 17 of them. So shout out to Childish Gambino.
Shout out to Donald Glover, Childish Gambino.
I hope you're not retiring on this note. I think that you're way too talented to retire on this album. I think that there's a lot that you can tackle as in the R&B, hip hop range of genres, where I would love to hear just an R&B, hip hop meshed type of Childish Gambino album, and I think a lot of his fans would too. This one wasn't for me, and there might be some people out here who like this album. Yeah, but it's not me.
It's been getting, like, from what I've read, it's been getting really good reviews.
Really?
It has. So people are rocking with it because I think they understand that Donald Glover is a visionary. So maybe some of the things he's tackled, maybe it has some underlying things that me as a reviewer missed, or like I'm just not seeing the vision. And that's perfectly fine, but from my perspective, from ours, nah.
Nah,
it's a nah.
That's a big nah. So y'all let us know what y'all think about it. But for me, I'm not. I'm out.
Cool.
I'm out. On another note,
let's talk about an album we like.
Yeah, yes, it's good to transition into an album that both of us love and to be able to dive deeper into, and that is The College Dropout.
Amazing.
By Kanye West.
Masterful.
Is it 20 years?
It's 20 years.
Yes.
20 years. We just passed 20 years.
We just passed 20 years of The College Dropout by Kanye West. For me, I just have to say this is an album that I can 100% say changed my life and made me love hip-hop. This is an album I actually, being a Chicagoan, actually went to the store to buy The College Dropout.
Was this the first album you bought?
No.
Okay.
No. I had bought. My mom had let me buy some clean albums before. This is the first, probably clean version album. One of the first clean version albums. I was allowed to buy the clean version albums. A lot of the younger people don't know that when you bought an album, you can go to the store and buy the clean version of the album with the edited versions. But this is definitely early though. One of the first albums I bought and loved it, man. And it's one. It made me look at hip-hop differently because number one, being from Chicago and relating to a lot of the things he was talking about, but also just how many different issues he was able to tackle on one album. This album, we'll get through some of the songs, tackles a lot of different issues in the world, in his personal life, within these songs. So definitely a classic. What do you think? What is just the overall thoughts of College Dropout?
No, this is a masterful debut. Because, like, people have to remember, like, Kanye was known strictly as a producer. It's hard for people to really think about that unless you're just an avid Kanye fan.
Absolutely.
But I don't think there was really that high of expectations as far as those outside of the Rockefeller camp that really were seeing what will become the College Dropout. You know what I mean?
No, and there were a lot of people from Raucous Records. I know who were advocating for Kanye early on, the most Defs, the Talib Kweli's, and those of that ilk. But even if you all have watched his documentary on Netflix, you'll see a lot of like how much he had to really advocate for this album, for people to take it serious, for him as a producer, and for him to have produced so many big songs by that era, for them to take him serious as a solo artist.
Right.
And so you could really see that this is like his life's work up to that point.
Absolutely.
And you can tell.
His magnum opus.
Absolutely.
Like, you can just tell from everything. Like, it's he took his time with it. He curated this down to the bone because, like, as the songs transition, you can see the themes unwind. And one of my favorite Kanye songs, it should be most people's Kanye, one of his favorite songs is Through the Wire. And I know I'm bouncing around, but just the power in that song alone, just everything. For those that don't know, he almost died in a car crash. Jaw wired nearly shut, and he was inspired to make a song about the experience and just like what it feels like going through tragedy. And it's like one of the most enthralling songs he's probably ever made.
And I think one of the things that makes that song so just powerful is the fact that you can actually hear how different he sounds.
Exactly.
And the fact you can hear his jaw being wired shut in the song, and the fact that you actually can hear how he's struggling to like speak like in the song, it's one of the most powerful hip hop songs of all time. And I say that confidently. Through the Wire is, and I think that's one that stands out. There are a lot of songs on. I love probably 99, 98% of this album. Like it and there are probably in hip hop probably like 10 albums I could say that about where I love everything on the album.
High mark, bro.
Yeah, there's not a lot, but I'll say like some of the most impactful ones for me specifically, Spaceship. Spaceship is a song that I've always loved, and I think that it really embodies just people's struggle day to day with working a job and going through just everyday life, trying to get ahead and knowing that there's more meant for you in life,
right?
But being contained by a job or in racism or just not being appreciated in whatever your space is. And I think that that's a song that most people can resonate with,
for sure.
Especially in this country. I think that song has always been a highlight for me. All Falls Down, of course, classic, certified classic. Jesus Walks. I mean, there's so many high points, but one of the high points on here for me, and this is because Jay Ivy actually went to my high school, and I remember
I didn't know that.
Jay Ivy and me went to the same high school. Of course, he's far older than me, but he actually performed at my high school when I was probably maybe a junior or senior in high school, and I remember seeing him and like actually seeing the person from that song and watching him perform it. And perform the like extended version of it, that poem that he gave on the end that was powerful. Never Let Me Down is just a beautiful song. Like Jay-Z absolutely goes crazy on it. Kanye goes crazy on it. And J.I.V.'s like poem is just insane. His spoken word piece on that song is crazy. So definitely some of the highlights on it for me. Like I said, I love the whole album. What were some highlights on it for you?
No, and so Jesus was actually the first Kanye song I've ever heard.
Let me tell you something. Rhymefest, who's one of the writers on Jesus Walks, was my first radio interview.
That's crazy. So look at those connections, yo.
It's crazy. Some of the people who don't know, I used to work in radio before getting into academia and becoming a professor. I actually was a radio host, and that was one of my first interviews. Now, mind you, Terrible interview. Because of me.
Why?
Not because of Ron Fez.
I was about to say, what
no,
Ron Fez
didn't do it. No, because of me. Me being young, I think I was 17 at the time.
Okay.
So take this into consideration.
Right.
I'm asking all the wrong questions. I'm asking about Kanye more than I'm asking about the fact that he's running for alderman. Because I'm 17 and I'm like, oh, you help with Jesus Walks and all these songs that I love. So I'm asking more about that than the fact that he's running for alderman. And also, I didn't realize that him and Kanye weren't even in the best of space at the time of this interview.
So they was
so he looking like, man, stop asking me about bro. Like, and they know it was a phone interview.
Okay.
And, yeah, man, it was interesting. Sometimes I show it to my students just to like be like, look, we all start somewhere. Listen to how bad this interview is. But yeah, man, that Jesus Walks powerful song.
For sure. Slow jams. We already know what that did back in the day.
Slow jams is crazy.
With Twista, and like I love the fact that was that Chicago link up. Like
yes.
I don't know what that meant to Chicago at the time. The fact that Twista and Ye, like,
man, the hip hop station in Chicago, shout out WGCI, they played that to death. When I say you heard slow jams nonstop in Chicago, it was big. Definitely a big one. There's a lot of Chicago on this album, from Common to GLC to Twista. Like it's a very Chicago heavy album, which I thought was really, really dope.
Dope.
And also 2 Words is probably got to be one of the hardest Kanye verses to me of all time. Like Kanye's verse on 2 Words is like legendary. You can tell because of the people on the song, because he's on there with Mos Def and Freeway. You can tell that he was like, I have to rap in this song.
And he had to.
And he had to keep up with what they were doing, and he did, and he held his own on that song. So, man, yeah, this album is just, I mean, it's
amazing.
It's amazing. The only song, and we discussed this off mic, the only song on here that we can say is not amazing is the Kanye's Workout Plan. And to be honest, for me, I'm not even that mad at that song. Like that. You're mad at it.
I'm mad at it because it's just like, what was the actual point? Because you got to think about what songs are in between it. Get 'Em High and Slow Jams. It's like, what reason did you have to, like, I get it. It's kind of a bouncier record. Like, there's not really any other song that could get that club appeal. I know Slow Jams would be played in the club, I think, back then. 100%. But New Workout Plan is not.
But you got to think about it. It's not even a bad transition though, because you going from the super lyrical rap of Get 'Em High to Workout Plan. Okay, that's a little shaky. But then it goes into Slow Jams, which is another song for the ladies. So it kind of makes sense to buffer it out, because you go straight from Get 'Em High to Kanye's Workout to Slow Jams. That's a crazy transition.
I'm cool. If he would have literally took out that song, that Workout Plan skit, to me this would have been an absolutely perfect album. It's still like a masterful project. I get it. Like, when you see the new workout video, you see it. It's like, it's kind of gimmicky. It's funny. Like, Kanye is funny.
Yeah. And I think the skits in here have the comedic
for sure
component of it too. So I think that that definitely sounds like a jokey joke song to throw in the middle. For sure.
But for me, I'm just like, why? Like, release it as a single. Like, release it as a Lucy. Like, I don't know.
If that wasn't on here, this. And I still think there's an argument for this. I think this would be the greatest hip hop album of all time.
The greatest?
I'm saying that with my chest too. Yo. I think if you take out Kanye's Workout Plan and you add one more crazy song on here, what album is better than this? Like, I think there's something that you can argue. You be able, of course, argue Illmatic,
of course.
Or you can always argue, some people will argue Lauryn Hill's joint, you know what I mean, of course.
Yeah.
Another classic that almost has no skips on it. But this is, I mean, if you take out that and you take out Breathe In, Breathe Out, and you add another like crazy conscious song on here.
Would you?
This is to me, this is it.
To me, it's like one of the most, because when people talk about debuts, I don't feel like they actually talk about the College Dropout enough. It almost seems like they always talk about everything. It's Illmatic and then everything else.
It's Illmatic, Reasonable Doubt, and then everything else.
You know what I mean?
Which to me is crazy, because I think that this is definitely debatable for the greatest debut album of all time. And it's a strong argument.
Yeah, it's
a strong argument.
It has me in the last people. If somebody said in the last 25 years, what better debut album is there than College Dropout? I really can't give them a solid answer. To be honest,
no. Some people would argue Good Kid, Mad City.
That's a good argument. I ain't gonna lie.
That's a good
That's a
argument,
really
but
good
I'm not
argument.
good. I am not gonna say Good Kid, Mad City is better than The College Dropout.
It didn't hit me the same emotionally.
Me
as
neither.
College Dropout did.
I think it's a masterpiece, but it definitely didn't have the same emotional response as The College Dropout does when you.
Do you feel like you have Chicago bias though?
Yes. I'm
at least you was honest. But if you're gonna die on any hill, I'd rather it be this. Though.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
no. If I was from LA, I probably might view it differently.
For sure.
But I think because he's talking about a lot of stuff that resonated with me, because being from Chicago, I think that I definitely responded to it differently, man. And this album is like, even like We Don't Care, the intro,
amazing song.
like how powerful that song is.
Yeah.
Like to kick it off with like the kids singing that specific like wasn't supposed to make it past 25. Jokes on you, we still alive.
Come on
like,
now.
To lead the album with that,
yeah.
I mean it's hard for me to say that somebody has a better debut album than this.
Yeah.
There's some that are on par. Like I said, Nas on par.
Of course.
Hove is on par. Lauryn Hill is on par, but it's hard for me to say that any of them are just by a landslide better than College Dropout.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest, though. If I had to pick one album during this time, around this time that I would pick over, like between 2000 and 2005, basically, because this came out in 2004, I'm probably picking The Blueprint over this. That might be the only album that'll do it for me.
As just an album that you like more?
Just as an album.
That came out in the same time frame? But he produced on The Blueprint.
It does have that Kanye-ism in it. And Common's B.
Common's B album is crazy.
If we want to talk about nearly perfect, I'm not skipping nothing on there.
No, I'm not. I don't skip any song on Common B.
No.
If you have not heard Common's B
do.
album, please do yourself a favor and listen to Common's album B. It is, I mean, just sit down, light an incense, and just sit down and just listen. I don't know why you gotta have incense. Like, sit down, light up an incense, and just vibe out to hookah, whatever you need to chill. And listen to Common's album B. It is amazing. It's a masterpiece.
And as someone who's never lived in Chicago, obviously I've been plenty of times. I'm going literally next week. When I listen to B, it makes me feel like I'm in the winter, like I'm in Chicago in the winter. Like I don't know why, but it just got that vibe. Maybe it's bro's hat in the album cover or something. I don't know, but
the corner's on that album.
Yeah.
The Corner, amazing song. And the video is in the winter, they in the cold. Like
maybe that's what it is.
I think you might be attributing it to that
those
music
visuals.
video.
Yeah,
with the Last Poets. Shout out Last Poets, man, too. Who are featured on that song. Man, look, Common B is crazy, but and when we talk about debuts, I forgot one.
Which one?
We're both. I would be disrespectful to say that one of the greatest debut albums of all time, 50 Cent. What am I talking about?
Oh, yeah, what are we talking
Get Rich or Die Trying.
Get Rich or Die Trying is generational,
is a masterful album. Like that's another one that I would definitely have to throw in the ring for the greatest hip hop debut of all time. But College Dropout is up there.
Up there for sure.
And the fact that he even introduced this whole mascot thing. So there's visuals that you even attribute to College Dropout that makes it even doper. Like the fact that I could just see that bear and I automatically think of the songs on the College Dropout.
For sure.
Is like.
And you see the influences. Like you see, because the bear, like Kanye's bear or whatever, whoever designed it or who helped design like the mascot idea, like you even see that later on, generations later, with Travis Scott on his album Rodeo, where it's not a bear, but it's like a doll. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he's selling a Travis Scott doll. Like some of those things that Kanye, there's just so many things you could take away from it that like us as hip hop fans has seen trickle down years later. You know what I mean? That he did on that project. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think Kanye's influence on music is something that, and I think a lot of people get mad when you talk about Kanye. I've had people and ask about like in the hip hop lectures that I give at different universities. A lot of people will, I'll not be uncomfortable with how much that I praise Kanye's music. But the thing is, I always say, other people care more about the opinions of music artists than I do. Like I don't care what Kanye West thinks about politics.
I
don't. I go to Kanye West for music. He is a musician. That is what I go to Kanye West for, and that is what I judge the art. I'm not I don't know him. I haven't built these fictitious relationships where I feel like you have to be a good person to be a good artist. Like that's not the case. And I don't know why we think because somebody.
See, I don't understand that.
Why do we think that music artists have to be good people?
I don't know. Or that celebrities are good people.
Celebrities,
in general.
Yeah, really just celebrities. Why do we hold celebrities to? There's not many other people in your life that you expect to be good people. Does your garbage man? Do you care if he's a good person?
Do I care about the person in the across me when I'm driving, like, or in the opposite intersection? Like, no.
Do you care if they're a good person? Do you care if the person who mows your lawn is a good person? Do you care about his views on politics or his relationships with women or anything really? I mean, do you care about why does the person who provides me music have to be a good person?
I'm not going to these people expecting them to enlighten me with like global affairs. Like, I'm not looking for that.
And I think what it is I think it's because you build because you listen to their music so much that you feel like you know these people, and you build this parasocial relationship with these people where it's to the point where you're like, I've heard so much about their lives through their music that you are now in belief that you know them as a person, but you don't.
No. And
I don't care to.
Yes.
I enjoy you for your music that inspired me. And that's what I will praise. I don't you as a person, what you think in your, I don't know. And I think social media has made it worse.
Absolutely. It's made it worse. And like when you get older, I feel you just have a certain level of discernment like that you don't have when you're younger. Because when you think about your favorite musical artists, actors, athletes, you look at them when you're younger as those role models or maybe like certain figures that you think are just like essentially superheroes. I know we talked about that earlier, but that's what you think of. And then you understand later that these people, especially as you see newer, celebrities that are around your age range right now at this point, right? And you're like, bro, you're human. Like, you know what I mean? You're no better. You just happen to have a platform or talent that has lifted you to certain heights. But ultimately, like, I'm not expecting to be, again, enlightened by certain people or to expect them to be actually genuine or good people because of the things that surround them or the industries that they're in.
Do you think that a part of the reason why people try to hold celebrities to these standards is because there's like a subconscious jealousy because they're rich?
I think because they're rich and because people, more times if you ask, want to be rich, they want to be in those places or in those seats that they occupy. I think there's this unnatural attachment to like the idea of who these people are. And then in the moment they're kind of, certain people, you can't tell them that their favorite actor or actress is a bad person. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and because they want to obtain that lifestyle or they admire it so much from afar, I think they just have that unnatural like attachment to them, bro. It's like it's that parasocial thing you was talking about. Yeah, where it blinds you.
And I also think that there's a portion of it that is we made you rich, so you are expected to behave in a certain way.
Wow.
That we agree with.
I never thought of it that way.
Because we made you rich.
Yeah.
And I think that it's interesting because it's like, but we weren't with it. We didn't help make College Dropout.
We certainly did not.
So it's like, we consumed it, but like he made it. So it's like, do you owe me something because you made an album that I enjoy? And I think that's something like I think that plays a role in it too. I think there's a you owe me because we helped get you to this level, so we have these level of expectations. Which like I said, I understand why people do it, but at the same time, I just don't think about art like that.
Yeah, I don't. And as someone who interviews artists, like some people who I am a fan of, like I'll tell them to their face, I'm a fan of you. Like I grew up like listening to your music or grew up watching your interviews or this and the third. Like I think that's why that phrase that people say, like, don't meet your heroes, it rings true, especially in those moments. And even from afar, if you don't have the opportunity to meet them and you see your favorite and they disappoint you in a certain regard, it's just like, why were your expectations that high, like in the first place? You know what I'm saying?
And same here. I think that one thing that I've always said and I really stand on this, and it's always been my mentality is, I'm not a fan of anybody. I'm a fan of your art.
Okay, I like that.
I'm not a fan of Kanye West. I'm a fan of Kanye West's music.
And
I don't know
Dropout.
in the college dropout, late registration, graduation, beautiful dark twisted fantasy, 808. I'm a fan of your work. I don't know you.
Oh, okay. I like that.
You know what I mean? I don't know you to be a fan of you. I don't know what type of man you are, you know, or woman you are, or whatever. Like I am a fan of the art that you have created. Same thing with actors, actresses. I am a fan of Denzel Washington's movie,
right,
and his acting. I'm not a fan of him because I don't know him. I'm sure he's a great guy, I would hope, but at the same time, I don't know Denzel Washington. I haven't sat down and chopped it up with him, and you know. So I think that's one thing that we have to do is I'm always big on separating the art from the artist, and so I don't care as long as I'm teaching hip hop courses, and as long as I'm giving lectures on hip hop. I would not skip over any artist because of what they do outside of the booth.
Is there a certain thing that they could do that will make you veer away from their music? Like, are there pretty much no bounds when it comes to music?
No, with music, no. For me, there are no bounds. If I taught an R&B class, I've never taught an R&B course. It probably would be fire. But if I taught an R&B course, I would teach R. Kelly.
Okay.
I'm not gonna. I had to think of somebody who's probably in R&B done the most egregious things. I would not teach R. Kelly's music. I'm still gonna teach about his contributions to R&B. How can you teach R&B and not teach about the contributions of R. Kelly? It doesn't make sense. I always say one example that I give in a lot of lectures is, what do you know Ike Turner for? And most people are like, Tina Turner.
Right.
Beating Tina Turner. Which, okay, that's what you know him for. Ike Turner is documented as creating the first rock and roll song ever.
I didn't even know
Rockin' 88 is literally in the Guinness Book of World Records is the first rock and roll song ever.
I didn't even know that.
And most people don't. They associate him with the worst things that he's done in his personal life. And the movie
didn't help.
Well, the movie did. And the fact that how good the acting was.
Exactly.
She played Tina better than Tina.
Angela Bassett is
one of my favorite actresses. When I think of Tina Turner, I think of Angela Bassett, which is, you know how good of an actress you have to be for me to now think of you as the person instead of the person as the person.
Or when they think of Ray Charles, they think of Jamie Foxx and Ray.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
That's another person who played the role so well that it's like you attribute them to the person now.
Right.
So that's one of those. But I always say that because it's like, can we disregard somebody's contributions to entertainment because of what they did in their personal lives? For me, I just can't do it. Yeah. I'm not gonna skip over history because I don't like somebody. Because I think they're a bad person. If so, we need to skip a lot of stuff in history.
Yeah, and that's the case. Like, we need to scrap how the country was formed. Like, if that's the case.
We need to scrap America if that's the case.
Right. So I hear you in certain regards. I agree with you. I can separate the music from the artist, the person. You know what I mean? I also can understand how someone is like, turn that off. I can't do that.
Oh, 100%.
I also understand that part.
Oh, I get it. I get when people do it because some of the songs don't hit the same for me either. For certain artists, when I hear it now, it's like,
yeah.
You know, I get why it's hard for people to do it, especially for certain artists who are singing about certain things that they may have done that are foul. So I can I 100% understand why some people can't detach it. I just am somebody who like I said, I'm not a fan of people.
For sure.
You know, who I don't know. And I'm a fan of people in real life who I've met, who I'm like, man, I'll tell somebody quick, Earl's a good guy. I know Earl. I've hung out with Earl. We broke bread. I know that you're a solid individual. You know, I don't know Usher.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know him as a person. You know what I mean? I love his music. But so that's what I can judge him based on, you know. And I can't judge people based on their worst qualities when I don't know any of their good qualities because I don't know them.
That's a good rule of thumb. And our culture is interesting. Like, I'm talking hip hop culture, who we kind of like place out, say you're not of, or you're not us, you're not like us. But then it's interesting that somebody can promote like, you know, murder and all these other things, and we embrace them with open arms. So like our culture is like fickle when it comes to that anyway.
100%.
You know what I
You
mean?
can 100% sing about shooting people and take it up a notch. You could shooting other black people.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine. You can glorify drug abuse in every song. And you can talk about getting high and make getting high sound like the coolest thing in the world in all your music. And that's okay.
Right.
That's not a cancelable offense.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? And so, you know, I think that, like I said, I think separating art from artists, for me, I always think it's important, just because we don't get to rewrite history because we don't like people.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, or because people have done things that are egregious and that are disgusting that we disagree with. That doesn't change what they contributed to culture or to art. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't even know how we got here,
But I love it.
but I love
This
that
is a
we got
conversation
here.
that needs to be had more often, I feel like. In
100
these spaces.
It's a conversation that's missing within especially when it comes to music.
Absolutely.
Because I you know, I don't even think people don't even do it with actual art, like paintings. Like you don't care what if the person who painted the picture, it was a good husband,
Right.
if they cheated on their spouse, or if they were abusive. Like nobody even thinks about that when it comes to looking at an actual painting.
Yeah.
It's really just like with music. Something
Even in film sometimes, like Roman Polanski as a director, great. As a human, by all accounts, seems like a terrible human being. Real weirdo.
real certified.
But people still appreciate his films. So it's just like, okay, and I'm not saying I side, bro is weird. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Absolute weirdo.
But it just shows you the split, the dichotomy of it all. You can appreciate his films and you separate him from his art, but you kind of like, you know what I mean? You still got to acknowledge the fact that bro is weird at the same time. Where do you fall on either side? Like, people have interesting thoughts when it comes to that, or make interesting decisions when it comes to that too.
Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get too into that, but I want you to look up Mark Wahlberg, who has movies that I like. But I want you to go and I want you to look up some of his old cases that he caught. And I want you to actually just read through the cases that he caught. And then I want you to get in the comments and I want you to let me know what you think. And do you feel bad about watching his movies now? You know? And so I think that we've been holding black artists to different standards than we hold everybody else to. You know, and I don't think it's fair. You know, I hold everybody to the same standards, whatever those standards are.
For sure.
Episode 3.
Episode 3. We got deep on episode 3.
We did,
I love
man.
this, though.
We did. Other episodes have been a lot more comedic.
Yeah.
This one we got to the nitty gritty.
The nitty gritty, man, and we cut deep with this one. We don't just talk music, we talk culture too. People gotta understand that too.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna talk about things that relate to music, that relate to culture, especially when it pertains to hip hop. So we always gonna stay with it. We made it to episode 3, man. My guy. Episode 3, man. Make sure y'all follow us. Rapping Reason on everything, right?
Yes. Subscribe, share, comment. We want to hear from y'all. We want to grow this network, this community that we're building. So, reach out, support any way you can, man. We love it.
Yes. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, all of that good stuff. Rapping Reason, man. We signing out. Love. Rapping Reason podcast with Dr. Jeremy C. McCool and Earl Hopkins.